Happy Wednesday. So today you're going to be looking at the cause and effects of the rise of the Roman Empire. We had been talking about the Roman Republic for a while and how it switched originally from a monarchy to a republic. And then all of the different structure of the governments that we see that's unique, like today's government. And now we're going to see the collapse of the Roman Republic. After we see the assassination of Julius Caesar, because the senators were too afraid that Julius Caesar was gaining too much power, and they were really afraid of creating Julius Caesar as a king or reverting back to a monarchy like before the Republic was started. So there's a bunch of elements that lead up to the empire, not just the assassination of Julius Caesar, but that was kind of like the final nail in the coffin for the rise of the empire. So you're going to be looking at this document today. It first starts off with a bunch of just vocabulary terms in case you're not familiar with them. So read them first before beginning to read the document. And then you'll scroll through. There's different categories, like we have naval dominance. Oh, excuse me. Um, so they're just little short readings. We have the strategy that they used to defeat Carthage, as you remember during your storyboard on the Punic Wars. It just kind of goes over that here. The idea of appeasement that the Romans did for conquered territories and peoples. And then we have improved stability, protection, and commerce and governments. Okay, which covers the military and certain things in this area. Um, and then we have standardization. This talks about currency, money. We have improvements in technology, food allocation, meaning how and where they got their supply of food. Um, Here we have reiterating military power. And then last but not least, we have geopolitical. So their strength politically and where it occurred geographically. Okay. So geopolitical is a combination of both geographic and political together. And then you'll scroll to the bottom, and this is where you'll fill in the chart. So first, what were the different causes? So these would be the names of the categories we just went over. Okay, so you'd put that in the first column. So there should be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah. So there's 8 sections. So the names of each section will go in column 1 where it says cause. So let's start with geopolitical, for example, because that's just right there. So geopolitical would be your 8th cause, right? And then you'd explain how that affected Rome, leading to the cause of the Republic's demise or the rise of the empire, and then its effect on the people. So, did it cause certain people to experience maybe more rights, or certain people less rights? Or did it gain land for certain people? Things like that. That would be in the category under its effect on the people. Okay, so first explaining why the category led to the fall of the Republic or the rise of the empire under explanation. And then you have its effect, so lasting impact on the people, cause, explanation, and then effect. So those are the 3 things we're looking at when reading this um, article. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a remind text or send me an email. I also wanted to bring to your attention, if you've been looking at the calendar, on this Friday you have a quiz on the Roman Republic. Okay, so the Republic would start. Um, this would be the initial Etruscans that we had talked about, the original inhabitants of the Italian peninsula. It would also mention the Greeks that were there, all the original groups. So look on your Italian peninsula map that you have. This would also include how you should know and remember the last Etruscan king, Tarquin the Proud. And then we also have the Republic. So the structure of the government of the Republic. We looked at this in your Edpuzzle. We also did a comparison between the Republic and today's government. You should know some of the key players from your leaders chart, your Roman Republic leaders chart that you did. You should know who Julius Caesar is. So a lot of you were a little bit confused on some of the, I think it was the Khan Academy video for Caesar and Cleopatra. And so it's important to remember that Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy were from the Ptolemaic line. So remember that was set up by Alexander the Great. So one of his generals who took over the Egyptian territories was of Greek descendants heritage. And so Cleopatra and Ptolemy were of Greek heritage. Now, so remember the pharaohs of ancient Greece would marry their relatives, their very close relatives, their first cousins, even brothers and sisters, in order to keep that bloodline pure. So they are very much still of Greek origin when we get to Cleopatra. So a lot of you mentioned the affair as a result of Caesar backing Cleopatra, but really what happened first was Ptolemy. Now remember, Pompey was and turned out to be kind of an enemy of Caesar. Um, and so Caesar was chasing Pompey out of Rome, and Ptolemy was really afraid of Caesar and his abilities, and was in fear that Caesar would attack Egypt and take over the area. So in order to appease Caesar, which he thought would make him happy, he killed Pompey. But this actually did not make Caesar happy. He was really upset by this because he wanted to be seen as like a benevolent leader, so a kind leader, someone that was forgiving. And he didn't get the chance to basically give Pompey a second chance if he wanted to. That control was taken away from him. So he was really upset with Ptolemy. And because of that, he decided to back Cleopatra, Ptolemy's sister, because remember at the time, Ptolemy and Cleopatra were joint rulers. So he put his military backing and support to Cleopatra. And then eventually she gains the throne because of it. And then her closest ties are to Mark Antony later on, and she has a child with him. And so that's what a lot of you missed. More than half of you got it, but there was a significant amount that missed that kind of element. So it wasn't due to an affair, it was due to basically political reasons for Caesar. So personal reasons help with things like this, but usually it's political first, and then if you have connections in some way, that's an additional factor. Um, and then a lot of you, when I was looking at the Edpuzzles for the most recent, the one on checks and balances for our government, I put the questions at the end, hoping that you were paying attention to the video and or would go back over the video once you saw the questions. And it was clear that a lot of you didn't. You either tried to do it by memorization or maybe searching. So there's some really low grades on that Edpuzzle. That was a checks and balances Edpuzzle. So if you got below a 7, I'm encouraging you to go back and revisit the Edpuzzle and redo it for a higher grade. Okay. In order to redo the Edpuzzle, you have to comment on your original answers. So you'll open it up and scroll through your answers, and there's a button that says comment underneath your original answer, and you'll have to comment on it what the correct answer is. So all of you understood that the 3 branches of government, the judicial, legislative, and executive, but a lot of you are confused on which branch had the most power. So that is in the video, and I'll just tell you, it is the legislative branch. Okay, and a lot of the things the video covers on why the original founding fathers gave the most power to the legislative branch. So remember, the legislative branch is Congress, and Congress is made up of two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. So a lot of you are a little confused on the language there. So legislative equals Congress, Congress equals the two houses, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate. So remember, people get to vote for both members of the House and members of the Senate. The House of Representatives member is much larger, and based on each state's population, depending on how many representatives you have for your state. But the Senate is equal across the board. We have 50 states, so there are 2 senators for each state, so totaling of 100 senators. Okay, so that's different. And then when we get to the voting of vetoing bills, a lot of you just reiterated the 2/3 rule. But it's important to note when you go back over that question, it's from both houses. Okay, so across Congress, which it's important to understand the distinction there. So please, I encourage you to re-watch the video. It is something that's important, and you'll see again in U.S. history. You'll see again when you get to government, your senior year. So you really should understand the structure of our government. And then for this class, it's important to be able to understand our government, but then also compare it to ancient Roman government and see the connection there of what the founding fathers were influenced by. Okay, so if you have any questions, again, with the quiz on Friday, please let me know. Just review all of your work from the thus far for the quiz on Friday. Okay, so nothing on the empire itself will be on the quiz, just the Republic, the things leading up to the Republic, and the fall of the Republic. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email or mind text or DM me on Instagram. Bye, have a great day.